presentation today. It's been a real honor to be able to have done this internship and be able to work with each of you. I have definitely learned so much from doing this in so many ways, which I hope to be able to cover in this presentation. But I just want to start off by saying a big thank you. So beginning, here are some of the stats of my internship. I had over 1,000 email conversations, 11 phone calls held with doctors, 12 SIMs/financials that I received, 4 proposals that I made, and then 1 Quantum Leap presentation. So I feel like this is an important slide for me, especially because it represents a lot of effort and work that I put in to get to this place, and I feel that it paid dividends. And I learned so much through these aspects. So I broke this presentation into 2 parts: the M&A side and then the project side I did towards the end of the internship. So within M&A, you have all these different groups: County Line, Quackman, Valley Forge, CMMD, North River, Manhattan, Medical Group, Advanced Surgical Care, Castle Connolly, MantCare, Bevel, Open Moves, and Evolution 7. It's a mouthful. But I was able to have some meaningful experience with each of these groups, and we'll be able to discuss this here. So here are some of the highlights. Number 1 is I spoke with Dr. McElwain, who has his Castle Connolly group has over $2 billion of annual revenue. This came about through an accident of fate, and I sent an email not realizing that they have, I think, 7,000 doctors. But it was a real honor because hearing from him, who has leadership experience, it really tested my maybe my communication skills in a certain way, and I feel like I learned a lot from there. Second highlight is that I had a conversation with 10 doctors, I think it was maybe 11, who were kind, smart, and interested. By contrast, some of the other ones didn't go as well. Sometimes they were just not interested and were sometimes rude, but that's part of the real world. The 4th highlight that I had was it expanded my deal network in the marketing, PR, and web design space. This, of course, refers to Open Moves, Bevel, and Evolution 7. And I got to learn a little bit about these industries, find out what makes them work and why these groups were successful. Another feather in my cap was that I was able to propose in those 4 proposals over $40 million. And to me, that's a big deal because it represents just kind of the progression, like almost like a quarterback going through his progressions, going from the email stage all the way down to the final proposal stage. And that's been a real great part of my internship. Another one is I was able to interview 4 candidates for the M&A role, which it's one thing to be able to participate in an interview. It's another thing to actually conduct an interview. And I think that it will assist my interview skills when I apply for jobs in the future. This is a great thing for me. Also, I developed an email finding tutorial for the future class, which I'll be uploading in a few minutes to Docs and Training. And then lastly, I was able to gain experience in the mergers in M&A. And this refers to going back to the marketing, PR, web design space, having the creativity to be able to see how those can go together was a learning experience for me. Here's what the experience within the healthcare aspect of M&A taught me. Number 1 is doing upfront work, which you'll see in my video. If you guys watch the email finding, you'll see that my approach to email finding was doing a lot of upfront work, and I feel I paid good dividends in the future. Second is finding a way to stand out in the mess of emails that doctors get all day, which is important. Also, going back to doing upfront work. Next is don't get discouraged with temperamental doctors, which I had a couple, and I sat in on Joshua's where there was one, and you can't put it on yourself. You have to understand that they have a very busy schedule, and sometimes that's just the cards. So the 4th point that I had that really, I think this is a very important one, is communication. Becoming a good listener and speaking with the utmost respect to doctors is crucial in your pursuit of M&A. I don't think that you can be successful in M&A without being a good communicator. And so 2 key aspects to this is becoming a good listener and a good talker. So lastly, tone makes a big difference. Always communicate the right sense of tone when you're talking to these doctors, because they want to be able to trust you. and also the tone should also communicate inspiration that you want to do this. It's not just something you did because you have to, or it's a job, but you're really excited to help their group grow. The roll-up taught me very different lessons. Firstly, being thinking outside of the box, the importance of cohesion, having patience and intentionality. In fact, I'm still waiting on some of these things. The bevel call that we're having later this afternoon is maybe 3-4 weeks in the making. We'll see what comes of it, but you have to have patience and intentionality, and then finding what makes a company unique. Moving along to the marketing campaign that Deanna and George, I wanted to put them out here and give them credit for their contribution here, because it really was a group effort. And I feel that this marketing campaign could transform the future of M&A for all of our upcoming interns, but also just KVLR in general. I think it has great potential. So speaking of the marketing campaign, we're of course talking about ClickFunnels, Zapier, and Google Sheets. I was able to assist in the development of the valuation tool at this domain, kvlrhealthcarepartners.com. We integrated the responses into Google Sheets for calculations, and then used that process data to input it back into ClickFunnels, and also email templates and the Podio app. So visually what this looks like is, this is from Zapier. You have at the very top, a new contact just fills out a form in ClickFunnels. Zapier detects that and creates a new spreadsheet row in Google Sheets. Then you have to create a separate Zap, which I found through the hard way. And then it detects a new sheet row in Google Sheets and delays it for 1 minute, because you can't actually process it without waiting a minute, because there's a little bit of a lag on the upper end of this between 1 and 2. There's some lags, and if you go too quick, it'll mess it up. Thirdly, it sends out an email through Zapier, which has a number of benefits, including email deliverability and reputation. Then it adds back tags into the ClickFunnels app, so that if we ever, and it automatically categorizes each of the contacts into the list depending on their criteria qualifications. Finally, it'll create an item in Podio, all of which these I've numbered so that I can show you guys what they look like. So number 1 is a new contact activity in ClickFunnels. So here's what it looks like for desktop. On the left, you'll see we have an About Us section, an Our Team section, and then each of the 3 branches of KVLR. Then pulsating in the middle, which you can't see, is with an image, but it will be moving on the real desktop app, is the valuation tool. On the right is a completely different website design for the mobile, because this did not display well on mobile, so we created another one. And it's the same function, just a little bit different. Exhibit 2 is, now that you have that, they fill out the form and it inputs into here. I would like to point out here, this is one of my biggest accomplishment in this internship, is this formula. It is, I think, about 11, maybe, if conditional statements. And it took me a long time to be able to do that. It was a lot of work to write all those out, and to even conceptualize it was difficult too. But you'll see that they input the email, ClickFunnels rather, inputs the email, the specialty, EBITDA, state, revenue, and growth rate. And then through a matrix on the right, it calculates which of the categories it falls into, whether it falls through the 0 to 500,000 range, 500,000 to 1 million, and so on. And then it categorizes it into those, inputs it back into the multiples, and it runs this function here that I wrote. With that, it will pump out the result of the multiple, and then it'll go back into the valuations, where it'll multiply the multiple low by the EBITDA and the multiple high by the EBITDA to get the valuation low and the valuation high. Lastly, it then calculates which it falls into, advisory capital. And this is where we're leading. Oh, before we move into the tags, we have the email. I obviously couldn't fit it here, so you might have to turn your heads a little bit, but this is the email that we designed through HTML. So once it gets those inputs, it will then build an email using those variables. And in the blue at the very bottom of the email, you'll see too low to evaluate. So this is the funniest part of it. I thought, okay, well, if it has the typical email script would say, your practice is worth 20 million to 22 million, as in row 12. But I thought, well, what if it's too low to evaluate? How do we write that out if we have all numbers? Well, I thought, let's just do too low, and then there's a 2 between evaluate. I don't know if that makes sense. But this is the result of it. It will pull up either too low to evaluate, or let's say $20 million to $22 million, whatever the case may be. There's also beneath it a calendar link, as well as the link to another funnel for the design of, I think Mr. Craner designed this one for a guide on how to be a recession-proof practice. Then it exports all of this data into Podio, and this is what it looks like with the state and EBITDA growth rate. I think those will be some really useful data points so that we're able to use it in the future for email campaigns, et cetera, et cetera. What I learned through this project, number one, is being open to learning something new. ClickFunnels was not easy to learn. It's sometimes a very complicated and frustrating website. So you have to be nimble and ready to learn something new. Through that, I actually learned CSS a little bit, not too much, but enough to know how to encode different formats and different fonts and different colors through CSS in the ClickFunnels design site. Then lastly, just having the patience with design. Sometimes there's a little margin difference and it messes everything up. And you have to be willing to go back and redo it again. Be patient with tech. That's another big one. I just this morning, actually, last night too, there was a glitch with Zapier, and I had to scrap it all and redo it again, re-encode it. And that's just the name of the game. You have to be patient with tech because sometimes it just breaks and doesn't work the way you expect. Lastly, there's nothing more inspiring than a pragmatic idea. I feel that one of the best parts of this whole project was the fact that it was a realistic idea and it could be executed quickly. And it combined not only the AutoVal situation, but the ClickFunnels, but the marketing, all those things came together for a very pragmatic and realistic idea, which is very powerful. Next steps beyond this internship, I don't know why it did that, but number one is I'll be finishing my business economics degree at UCLA this year. I'm honored to say that I'm going to be graduating a year early, which is a big accomplishment for me. The second is that I will continue to remain involved with KVLR throughout the year. So if there's ever, Mr. Craner, any needs, whether it be training or maybe a project, or maybe someone's continuing this ClickFunnels / Zapier thing and they're wondering how to get it going, I'd be more than happy to help with that. And then lastly, it's inspired me to continue in the healthcare M&A space post-graduation. What that looks like, I'm not sure at the moment, but with my background in healthcare, family-wise, and my aspirations within the M&A space, I think this could be a pretty powerful combination. And that is the end of my presentation. I here just wanted to reemphasize my gratitude to Mr. Craner for giving me this opportunity to do this presentation and this internship. And then Deanna and George, thanks for being great teammates in this project. Thanks so much, everyone.